Well, hi, I'm Jeff Strong. I'm creator of the Auditory Brain Stimulation Therapy Rhythmic Entrainment Intervention. I'm also co-founder and creative director of BrainShiftRadio.com. In this video, I want to talk about our Drum Healing Live workshop. This is a 3-day intensive workshop based on the online drum healing course that hundreds of people have gone through. This event is taking the concepts of what we're doing in drum healing online and bringing it into a community environment. So we're going to be drumming like people have been drumming for tens of thousands of years together. The online course is really cool because you're covering, all the information and technique about how to use drumming therapeutically. You get to know the science, the rhythms, the history. You get to do a lot of meditations and a lot of connecting, but you're doing it on your own. This, we get to do it together. So we're going to be going across time and tempo. Looking at the oldest techniques, the shamanic technique, deep meditation, looking at what it means to get into that low end of the theta state of consciousness, this very inwardly directed state with a lot of visions, altered state of consciousness, out-of-body experiences, all these things that can happen down in the low theta. We're going to take the traditional shamanic technique, we're going to do some journeying, but we're going to expand beyond that. We're going to start morphing the rhythms and the techniques a little bit to see what happens when you change rhythms at that tempo. Because historically, that tempo is all about a really repetitive rhythm. We're going to start varying it, and we're going to play around with that and see what it does for you. And we're going to do this in a community environment. And then we're going to go through trance drumming, which is mid-theta, 4.5 to 5.5 beats per second, where we're creating grooves. Most of these grooves are in odd meter, unusual rhythms, but they have a repetitive pattern to them, just a real grace about how they just flow. And that gets you into this low mid-theta, which is all about intuition, creativity, really just expanding your awareness to possibility. And then we're going to speed up into ceremonial drumming. Ceremonial drumming is really a pretty broad term. Every style of drumming around the world is ceremonial. There's a spiritual connection to it. There's a sacredness about it. We're going to focus on the African tradition. We're going to take a look at what happens when you take ensemble rhythms, 5 different drum parts, for instance, and you kind of blend them together into a composite rhythm. So we're going to be looking at traditional ceremonial rhythms. We'll be able to play some of those since we're a group, and we'll see what that feels like, and then we'll go into the composite rhythms and work with those to really see where we can go with that. And then we're going to expand beyond that to specificity. The ceremonial rhythms in the African tradition do have a specific nature to them. In other words, you play certain rhythms to kind of evoke a certain archetype, to bring forth certain spirits. And you have to play the right rhythm in the right way at the right time. There's a specificity to it. You have to play this rhythm this way. We're going to take that concept and we're going to bring it into the chakra energy centers because that way we can look at the specificity in a more controlled environment. We also can be looking at it in terms of different tempos. One really cool thing about the chakra end of things is that we can play at any tempo imaginable and get the same effect. So the first chakra rhythm, for instance, doesn't matter if you're playing at 3 or 4 beats per second or 8 or 9 beats per second, it has the same impact on that energy center. So that means the very beginning drummers in this workshop will be able to feel the effects of that even if they can't play very quickly. And the advanced players can really push the envelope on what they want to do with it to see what they can do beyond just the basic spinning up of that chakra and balancing it out. So that specificity, we're going to look at that quite a bit, and then we're going to go into the higher level work that I've been doing with rhythmic entrainment intervention for the last 25 years. This is high speed rhythms, about 8 beats per second, which is really quick. This is the lower end of the alpha state of consciousness. This is an outwardly directed state. Very different effect. We're looking at calm, we're looking at focus, we're looking at enhancing cognition and memory and things like this. What does that mean? How do we approach this? For the beginning drummers, you may not be able to play these tempos, but you're going to be able to understand how this works and how you approach it. And then as you develop your technique and can get up to these tempos, you'll know what you're doing. And that's the goal here. This workshop is open to anybody at any level. We have absolute beginners coming, people who are going to be picking up the drum with intent for the first time. There may be people who have done some shamanic work, which, in case you don't know, is just a very steady rhythm. It doesn't require any technique at all. Well, we're going to teach technique. They're going to be able to learn how to play 3 different styles of drums, and we're going to learn enough technique that you're going to be able to move forward really quickly. And then we have super high level drummers. We have some drum circle facilitators, people who've been doing this for decades, professional drummers on drum set, really high level technique, that are going to be able to learn the nuances of what this means on a brain-based level, what it means to go beyond just playing technically, because this is not about technique. This is really about connection. This is about intent and about understanding how the brain responds to certain approaches. So we're going to learn how all this happens. You can develop your technique over time. One cool thing about this live course is you're also going to get the online drumming course. So you'll have access to that content forever. And so you can come to the workshop, you can go home, and for the next year you can work on your technique, revisit the concepts, take a look at the meditations. So the main thing here is that we're going to be doing this as a group. And having beginners and advanced players together just enhances the experience. That the advanced players get to see the purity of what the beginners are doing as far as connecting goes. Because when you're just starting out, the connection is the most important. When you have high level technique, you sometimes don't allow yourself to settle into that space because you're worried about how you're playing. So having an advanced player next to a beginner allows that advanced player to settle in a little bit, to relax a little bit about that technique and open to the simplicity of what it means to really connect. The beginners get to see what high-level technique looks like. They get to be inspired by the good players. They also get to see what works and doesn't work, because I guarantee you one thing we're going to see here, and I'll do it too, is there will be times when the really good players will be playing stuff that just doesn't work because they're playing something in a musical way that fits their technique that may not be appropriate for what it means to hit this level of therapeutic drumming. Because when you play a certain tempos and a certain rhythms, you're having a very specific effect. You need to understand how that works. So the broad stroke is the slower you go, the more simple the rhythm can be. The faster you go, the more variable and complex it has to be. But there are rules within that we're going to be really looking at deeply. We're going to be spending a lot of time on active meditations, focused meditations where you're developing your ability to work in theta. You're working on your mind in this altered state of consciousness. You'll be able to do all kinds of different things, whether it's just intuiting, communing with otherworldly experiences, having visions that really carry you somewhere. That's part and parcel to what drumming has been doing. The shamanic technique is all about the journey. For instance, if you talk to any traditional shamanic practitioner, they won't even really talk about the drumming that much. They're more interested in the journey, that experience that you have when you're out. And we're going to be exploring that quite a bit, but we're also going to be taming it through techniques that I learned from one of my teachers, of being able to really focus it in and have intent and direct it with different rhythms and different tempos. There's some logistics down below at the bottom of this page. We're having this workshop just outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico, in a little town called Lamy. It's about 140 people. It's an artist and ranching community, primarily. It's a really cool environment. We'll be doing this in a large adobe building, so that the sound is amazing because you have these really big, thick walls. And it'll be a small group, so everybody will get to know each other, which will be really cool. So if you have any interest in joining, definitely sign up below. If you have questions about whether it's a good fit for you, call us at 800-659-6644 or email us at contact@stronginstitute.com.